I still remember the day my world crumbled. It wasn't a loud, dramatic moment. No, it was quiet, subtle, and devastating. His name was Alex, and for 6 years, I had built a life with him. We were the perfect couple, or so I thought. We had the house, the dog, the vacations, everything that made people look at us and say, they've got it all. But what they didn't see, what no one saw, was that everything we had was built on a lie. It all started with little things, small, almost insignificant moments that I dismissed at first. He'd come home late from work, saying it was a busy day, or when we went out, he'd be on his phone more than he was talking to me. It wasn't until the night I found the message on his phone that I started to connect the dots. I had been out for dinner with a friend, and when I came home, I found him on the couch, his phone face down next to him. I wasn't the type to snoop. I trusted him, or at least I thought I did. But something in me, some gut feeling, told me to pick it up. I never imagined that one innocent action would destroy everything. The text was from a woman named Sarah. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you so much." My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting, that maybe it was some kind of misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew. I knew in that moment that everything I had believed in was a lie. I confronted him right then and there. The look on his face, the way he hesitated before answering, told me everything. "It's not what you think," he said, but I could see the guilt in his eyes. His words were hollow, like he knew I wouldn't believe him. And honestly, I didn't. How could I? "Who is she?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's nothing," he stammered. "Just someone I work with. It doesn't mean anything." But it did mean something. I could see it in his eyes. I could feel it in the way his body tensed up whenever I asked more questions. I didn't want to admit it, but I knew. This wasn't the man I had fallen in love with. This was someone else, someone I didn't recognize. The truth hit me like a slap in the face. He had been seeing Sarah behind my back for months, maybe longer. The betrayal wasn't just the affair. It was everything he had taken from me. The trust, the time, the love. I felt like I had been living in a dream, and it had all come crashing down in one moment. The worst part? He didn't even try to deny it. He apologized, sure, but his apology felt empty, like he was sorry he'd been caught, not sorry for what he'd done. In that moment, I realized that everything I had given him, everything I had sacrificed for our relationship, had been taken. For granted, I wanted to scream, to yell at him, but I didn't. I just stood there, silent, broken. I had trusted him. I had given him everything, and he had taken it all. He had taken my love, my trust, my heart, and now he was going to pay for it. But I wasn't going to stay in this mess. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I wasn't going to sit here and let him destroy me. No, I had to do something about it. Something that would show him what he had done to me. I packed my things the next morning. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't want to. I just left. But as I drove away, the fury began to bubble up inside of me. The sadness, the betrayal, the anger. It all mixed into one. And I realized that I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to make him regret what he had done. It wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be quick. But I was going to take what he cherished most. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it yet, but I had a plan. And I wasn't going to let him get away with destroying everything we had built. The first few days after I left were a blur. I stayed with a friend in the city, trying to process everything that had happened. It felt surreal, like I was living someone else's life. I had always believed in love, in building a future with someone, in the idea of us against the world. But now, that world had crumbled, and I was left standing in the wreckage. I didn't cry. At least, not as much as I thought I would. There were moments, of course, when the tears would fall. Usually, when I was alone. But I knew I couldn't afford to fall apart completely. Not now. Not when I had made a decision. I spent the first night at my friend Lily's place, sitting on her couch with a glass of wine, letting the anger settle in. I knew I had to do something. But what? How do you get back at the person who has everything you wanted? The person who not only betrayed you, but took everything from you and treated it like it was nothing? That's when the idea hit me. I had to take what he cherished most. But not just his stuff. No, it had to be something bigger. Something that would hit him where it hurt the most. Something that would make him regret ever doing this to me. It didn't take long for me to come up with a plan. Alex had always been obsessed with his company, his brand. He had worked hard for everything, always striving to make a name for himself. We both had. But he put everything into his career. It was his life, his dream. And I had supported him, built him up, made sacrifices for him. I had always stood by him, even when it meant putting my own dreams on hold. But now it was time to take that from him. Not in a way that would be obvious, but in a way that would make him feel the loss. I called a few of his colleagues, people who worked with him on various projects. I reached out to suppliers, to the people who helped with his contracts. I started planting seeds, subtly, asking the right questions, hinting at things that weren't quite right. I made sure the rumors spread. Little by little, things started to unravel. I didn't need to destroy him overnight. I just needed to make him feel the uncertainty, the chaos, the fear of losing everything he had worked so hard for. But I didn't stop there. I knew Alex had a soft spot for his family, especially his mother. She was his rock, the one person he always turned to when things got tough. And she was the one person I could manipulate without him ever suspecting a thing. I called her one afternoon. Her voice was as warm as always when she answered. "Jessica, how are you doing, dear? I've been thinking about you." "I'm fine, Mrs. Carter," I said, keeping my tone soft and respectful. "I just wanted to check in. I know Alex hasn't been himself lately, and I wanted to see if there was anything I could do to help," she sighed. "He's been so stressed with work. I've tried talking to him, but he's so consumed with his business. You know how he is." "Yes, I do," I said, letting my voice linger with a hint of sadness. "It's just that, well, I've been hearing some things about his business, about some of the deals he's been making. I don't want to be the one to say anything, but I just thought you should know." Her tone immediately shifted. "What do you mean? What have you heard?" "I don't want to worry you," I continued, making sure to sound genuine. "But it seems like there are some people starting to talk. You know, some suppliers, some of his contacts. It's just not good. I'm worried, Mrs. Carter. I really think he's in over his head." I knew that was enough. By the end of the conversation, she was already concerned. She'd call Alex later that evening and ask him what was going on, pressing him for answers. He wouldn't be able to hide the cracks, and the pressure would start to build. I wasn't finished yet, though. I still had more to do. I knew what Alex cared about: his company, his brand, his image. But what I hadn't taken into account was how much the betrayal would start to eat away at him. How much seeing me move on would hurt him. Seeing him squirm, seeing him panic, those moments would be worth more than any material possession. And soon, I'd be the one who held the power. It didn't take long for Alex to start feeling the pressure. It began subtly at first. His business, which had once felt like a well-oiled machine, started showing signs of strain. Suppliers began canceling contracts, clients pulled out of deals, and the rumors I had carefully planted started growing, spreading like wildfire. I didn't need to lift a finger. Everything was falling apart without me having to do anything. All I had done was give the right people a little nudge in the right direction, and now the cracks in his empire were widening. Alex called me several times in the first week, but I ignored every call. I knew he was starting to realize that something was wrong, but I wasn't ready to talk to him yet. Not until I had done what I set out to do. One afternoon, as I sat in my apartment with a cup of coffee, I got a call from his mother. I had been expecting it. She was the one who would be the first to reach out, worried about her son, trying to figure out what was going on. She left me a message. "Jessica, it's Nancy. I'm really concerned about Alex. He's been acting strange, and I know you two have had some issues, but I need to know what's going on. Can you please give me a call back?" I listened to her message a few times before I picked up the phone and called her back. When she answered, I made sure my voice sounded calm, like I was just a concerned ex-girlfriend, worried about how Alex was doing. "Hi, Mrs. Carter?" I said, keeping my tone soft. "I got your message. I've been meaning to call you, but with everything that's been happening, I've just been so overwhelmed. How's Alex doing?" There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear her trying to collect her thoughts. "He's not doing well at all. He's been really stressed. And I'm worried about him. He won't tell me what's going on. He's shutting everyone out." "Has he said anything about his business?" I asked, my voice casual, like I was just concerned about him like she was. She hesitated again. "Not much. He keeps saying everything is fine, but I can tell something's off. I'm afraid he's in trouble, Jessica. I just don't know what to do." I let the silence stretch between us, letting her words settle in the air. I could tell she was getting frustrated, and that was exactly what I wanted. I knew how much she cared for Alex, and the more worried she became, the more it would affect him. "Well, I've been hearing some things too," I said, lowering my voice like I was about to tell her something secret. "I don't want to be the one to say anything, but it's really been bothering me. I've heard from a few people. Well, I don't want to upset you, but it seems like there are some issues with the business. Some deals falling through, people pulling out. I'm really worried about him, Nancy. I don't know if he's in over his head." Her gasp over the phone was all I needed. I knew that was the confirmation she needed to take action. "Oh my God, Jessica, why didn't he tell me?" she said, her voice trembling. "I had no idea. I have to talk to him. He needs help. He's never been this stressed before." "That's all I wanted to say," I replied, feigning concern. "I just think he's burying himself in his work, and it's starting to catch up with him. Maybe he just needs someone to really sit down and talk to him. Maybe you can help him, Nancy." She agreed. She would talk to him, she said. She would find out what was really going on. I knew deep down that this would only make things worse, for him. The more pressure he felt, the more mistakes he'd make. And eventually, it would all crumble. The next few days were quiet. Alex tried calling me again, but I still didn't answer. I didn't need to. I could feel the change. He was getting desperate, and that was exactly what I wanted. Every time he reached out to me, I just smiled and ignored him. It wasn't about the money or the revenge anymore. It was about him feeling the consequences of what he had done to me. It was about showing him that his actions had a price. But the thing about revenge is that it doesn't always feel as good as you think it will. As his life began to spiral, part of me couldn't help but feel sorry for him. He had been my world once, and watching him fall apart, knowing I was the one who had set it all in motion, felt strange. Still, I couldn't back down. I had already committed to this path, and I wasn't going to let him off the hook. He had taken everything from me, and now it was time for him to experience what it felt like to lose it all. The days felt like weeks, and with every passing hour, Alex's world seemed to unravel further. Every time I checked my phone, another call from him appeared. Voicemails, text messages, desperate pleas for me to talk to him. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not yet. Not until I had made him feel the weight of everything he had done to me. It wasn't about the revenge anymore. It was about justice, about finally making him see the consequences of treating me like I was disposable, like I didn't matter. Every text, every message he sent only added fuel to the fire, but I knew I had to be patient. The phone calls stopped, coming as frequently. I knew the pressure was mounting. Nancy had called me again, telling me that Alex was losing it. She said he couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, couldn't even bring himself to talk to her about the business issues he was facing. She was worried, but there was something in her voice that made me feel like she was still trying to protect him, still trying to shield him from the reality of what was happening. I wasn't going to shield him. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. If he thought I was going to just sit back and let him off the hook, he was wrong. A week passed, and I could see the cracks forming. I had kept an eye on his business from a distance. The rumors had begun to escalate. Clients were pulling out, deals were falling through, and the suppliers I had quietly spoken to had started backing out of their contracts. I knew it was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down, and then it happened, the moment I had been waiting for. It was late one evening when I got the call. I had just gotten back from a walk, my mind racing with thoughts of what I could do next. I didn't expect the call, but when I saw his name flash across the screen, I hesitated for a second, and then I answered. "Jessica?" Alex's voice was weak, strained. I could hear the desperation in his tone. "I need to talk to you. I don't know what's happening. My business is falling apart. I don't know what to do. Please just help me." I sat down on the couch, my heart pounding. It was everything I had wanted to hear, but it wasn't enough yet. "You think I can help you?" I asked, my voice steady, but underneath it was a raw edge of emotion I couldn't suppress. "You think after everything you've done, I'm just going to swoop in and fix your mess?" "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," he pleaded. "I made a mistake. I've been terrible to you. I know that. But I'm drowning. Please, Jessica." His words echoed in my mind. Drowning. He was drowning. And for the first time, I realized just how far I had pushed him. I had made him feel the same way I had felt all those years. Alone, unimportant, disposable. For a moment, part of me wanted to give in, to go back and fix things, to somehow make it all right again. But then I remembered everything. All the lies, the betrayal, the years I had spent convincing myself that this relationship was worth saving. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not going to help you. You can fix this on your own. You created this mess, Alex. You need to clean it up." I didn't know if he was shocked by my response or if he had expected it, but I could hear him on the other end, breathing heavily, probably fighting back tears, probably realizing that there was no one left to save him. "I don't know what I'm going to do," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You'll figure it out," I said coldly. "But don't come to me for help. You don't deserve it." With that, I hung up the phone. For a moment, I sat in silence, feeling an odd sense of peace wash over me. I had done what I set out to do. I had made him feel what I had felt for all those years. He wasn't going to get away with it. He wasn't going to walk away without facing the consequences of his actions. The hardest part of all this was knowing that, deep down, part of me still cared about him. But that part of me was buried beneath everything he had done. I couldn't let it control me anymore. I couldn't let him have that power over me. I had taken what he cherished the most. And now, there was no going back. The following days felt surreal. Alex's world was crumbling, and mine was quietly starting to rebuild. I had told myself that once I took back control, once I made him feel the weight of his betrayal, I'd feel liberated. But as the days passed, I began to question my motives. I had always been the one who cared too much. I had given him so much of myself over the years, sacrificing my own needs to fit into his world, his expectations. I had been the perfect partner, the perfect woman who supported him in everything, always prioritizing his dreams over mine. And how did he repay me? He took everything from me. He took my trust, my love, and ultimately, he took my sense of worth. But now, I had taken what mattered to him. His business was falling apart, his reputation in shambles, and he had no one to blame but himself. I couldn't pretend that I didn't feel a sense of satisfaction knowing he was paying the price for the way he treated me, but at the same time, I couldn't help but wonder if the satisfaction would last. Would it make me feel better? Or would it leave me hollow, knowing that I had destroyed him in the process? I tried not to dwell on those thoughts. Instead, I focused on the small victories. The first was reconnecting with myself. For the first time in years, I was doing things for me. I took up painting again, something I had loved doing when I was younger. I started working out more, focusing on my body, my health, not to impress anyone, but for my own peace of mind. And I reconnected with friends I hadn't spoken to in ages, people who were genuinely happy for me, people who didn't judge me or my decisions. But even as I found small pieces of happiness in the things I had neglected, I couldn't escape the nagging feeling that I had crossed a line. It was one thing to take back what was rightfully mine, but was I taking too much? Was I turning into someone I didn't recognize? Then the call came. It was from his mother. "Jessica, please, can we talk?" Her voice was soft, almost pleading. I hadn't spoken to her since everything had unfolded, and hearing from her now, after all that had happened, brought up a flood of emotions I wasn't ready to face. "Why now, Mrs. Carter?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you want?" "I know what's been happening, Jessica, and I can see that you're hurting. But please, you have to understand. Alex, he's a good person. He just made terrible choices. I never wanted you to feel like you weren't important to him." I didn't know what to say. Her words stung, but I also understood why she was trying to defend him. She was his mother. She loved him, and no matter what he did, she would always want to believe the best in him. "I don't think I can help him anymore, Mrs. Carter," I said quietly. "He's the one who needs to fix this, and I can't be the one to save him." There was a long silence before she spoke again. "I don't want to see you two torn apart, Jessica. I want you to know that you're still part of this family. You've always been a part of it." Her words cut through me. Part of me wanted to believe her. Part of me wanted to forgive Alex, to believe that maybe things could go back to the way they were. But the other part of me, the stronger part, knew that I couldn't go back. I couldn't unsee what I had seen. I couldn't forget the betrayal. "I'm not sure I can ever be the same with him," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. "I don't know if I can ever trust him again. I don't know if I can ever let him back in," she sighed. "I understand, but please don't close the door completely. You've always had a special place in this family, and I don't want to lose that." I ended the call soon after, feeling more conflicted than ever. I wasn't sure if I had made the right choice in cutting Alex off, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back. I had exposed his lies. I had watched him crumble. And no matter what his mother said, the truth remained the same. He had betrayed me. As the days passed, I started to feel more and more certain that my decision was final. But then, Alex reached out again. This time, it wasn't a phone call or a text message. It was a letter, handwritten, delivered to my doorstep. I stood at my front door, holding the envelope in my hands, staring at his neat handwriting. He was trying again, and for the first time in a long time, I wondered, was I strong enough to face him again? Or had I already made the decision to walk away for good? I stood there, frozen, holding the envelope in my hands, unsure of what to do next. The weight of it felt heavier than I expected. The last thing I wanted was to hear from Alex again. The last thing I wanted was for him to try to rewrite what had already been done, what I had already exposed. But there it was, his handwriting staring back at me like an invitation to relive the past. The moment I saw his name on the envelope, a flood of memories rushed through me. Memories of better days, of laughter shared over dinners, of long walks through the park, holding hands like we had all the time in the world. But those memories were shattered now. They felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. Someone who didn't know the heartbreak I'd been through. With a deep breath, I tore open the envelope. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find inside. Maybe I expected another apology. Maybe I expected him to beg me to come back. But as I unfolded the letter and began reading, I realized it wasn't just an apology. It was something else. Something deeper. Jessica, I know I've hurt you. I don't even have the words to explain how sorry I am for everything I've done. You didn't deserve any of this. You didn't deserve the lies, the secrecy, and you definitely didn't deserve to be treated like you were nothing. I've spent the last few months thinking about everything. The way I treated you, the way I ignored your feelings, the way I broke your trust. And I want you to know that I will never forgive myself for that. I have no excuses for what I did. I can't erase the pain I caused, and I know you probably hate me for it. I understand if you never want to see me again. But I need you to know this. You meant everything to me, and I've realized that too late. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know that you were never a mistake, Jessica. I treated you like one, but you were always the best thing that ever happened to me. I can't take back the past, but I want you to know that I'll spend the rest of my life making amends for the things I did to you. I love you. I always have. And I always will, Alex. The letter fell from my hands, and I collapsed onto the couch, feeling like the room was spinning around me. His words, his apology, hit me harder than I expected. For a moment, I thought I might crumble, might let the past wash over me and drag me back to him. Maybe it would be easier to forgive him. Maybe it would be easier to pretend that everything could go back to the way it was. But I couldn't. I couldn't erase the betrayal, the lies, the broken trust. I had spent so many years loving him, trusting him, only to have it all ripped away. And now, as much as it hurt, I knew that walking away was the only way forward. I picked up the letter and read it again, more slowly this time. His words were sincere, but they weren't enough. I wanted to believe that he had changed, that he had learned from his mistakes. But deep down, I knew that people didn't change that easily. The man who had betrayed me was still the same man who had shattered my heart. I put the letter down, my hands shaking. There was no easy answer. There was no easy path forward. I had to make a decision, and this time, I knew I had to choose myself. I couldn't go back to the life I had with Alex, no matter how much I still cared for him. As I sat there, feeling the weight of the decision settling in, I realized something. I wasn't just walking away from him. I was walking away from the life I had built around him. I was choosing to take back control of my life, to stop living in the shadow of someone else's choices. I didn't need him to validate me anymore. I didn't need him to fix the broken pieces of my heart. I was strong enough to do it on my own. The tears came, but they weren't tears of sorrow anymore. They were tears of release, of finally letting go.